A pastor friend of mine many years ago told me, you can't want more for others than they want for themselves. And I'll never forget that. And if you do want more than they want, it's going to drive you crazy. And it'll be like you banging your head against the wall. And what's the best way to feel better when you're banging your head against the wall? To stop banging your head against the wall, right? You know, it says in Philippians chapter 2, verse 13, that it is God who works in us to will and to do according to his good purposes for our lives. Each one is responsible for his own vessel, myself included. I had a vision the other day, an open vision, which is very interesting. I haven't had one of those in a while. And I was in the hallway of my house, and I envisioned myself having these dead branches coming out of my side and out of my middle and all around my torso. And then the front door opened and there was a bright light, and then the vision was over. And what I took that to mean was, you know, all of us can do nothing apart from the vine. Who is the vine dresser? God the Father. Who is the vine? Jesus. Unless we abide in him, we can do nothing. And a lot of times, just out of love and connection and even soul ties to other people, we allow them to attach themselves to us when they need to be attaching themselves to Jesus. So why not begin to see yourself just breaking these branches off of you that are holding you back? You're not going to be able to go through the door. Jesus himself says in Revelation, says, I open doors that no man can shut. And the door is open, but how are we going to go through with these big branches on us? We have to prune ourselves. We have to break them off. And then we think, oh my goodness, what about all these people? What about different family members of mine that have been depending upon me as adults even for so many years? What are they going to do? When you break them off, they're either going to die or they're going to reattach themselves to the vine. And once I saw this vision, I began to look up grafting branches and plants and all of this, because I'd never thought about that, you know, we're grafted in as Gentiles. You know, the only people that are in the vine, that grew up in the vine are Messianic Christians. But then the ones who got broken off, that's where we are grafted in. And so when I looked at all of these videos on grafting, it was fascinating. They kind of created sort of a tongue and groove for these branches to come together like that, and then wrapped it with grafting tape very tightly so that the moisture would not go out, so it could begin to draw from the sap of the plant. And it was amazing what they could graft and the colors that they produced in roses, for example, and things like that, to produce just a beautiful, beautiful plant. So just remember, let others find their own way. You've already seeded enough into them. You've already given enough into their lives. You've done your best to disciple them, right? I remember many years ago when I began to lead people to Jesus on the airplane as a flight attendant, you know, about 20 years ago. I spent almost 20 years just going to work, just being a nice person, maybe share my testimony once in a while. But then I got around some soul winners, and I thought, wait, this is one of my major platforms is at work. And I began to witness to somebody. And at 30,000 feet, they asked Jesus into their heart. I mean, the whole atmosphere changed. It was amazing. And but then I began to lead one person after the next, and they lived all over the country. And I just was out of touch with them. Some of them I would get in contact with and said, "Oh, that was a nice little prayer that we prayed. I don't know what it was all about." And I thought, "Oh my goodness, did I even do my job?" No, I know that I did my job. I shared the entire gospel with them, but it was their choice to stay connected to the vine, or just consider that moment just a moment not to stay grafted in, you know. So I began to release people. I began to pray for them, praise God. But you know, when you pray for people, it's not an everyday I'm praying. And if I pray more, then it'll just get done. If I pray the same things over and over again for my family members, it's just going to get done. No, in actuality, that's just vain repetition. The very first prayer that you prayed. Now, I'm not saying that you don't pray repeatedly for the lost and those that are stumbling. You do, because you have love in you. But there comes a point where you've prayed for someone for so long there's no change. You don't see it. And it's just time to what? Just cut that soul tie. Let them detach from you and find their own way. And the only way they're going to find fulfillment is in Jesus Christ. And it's amazing to me that when I've cut that cord with other people, which I shouldn't have had that cord to begin with, right? I should always be pointing them to Jesus, right? But that branch, we're living sacrifices. So those dead branches that you prune off yourself can slither off and get themselves connected back into the vine. Romans chapter 12, we're living sacrifices. And I remember my dad, and I'll leave you with this, he said, the only thing bad about a living sacrifice is that it can crawl off the altar. Don't crawl off the altar. And those of you that have been ministering to people for years, believing for people for years who are not changing, let them crawl off the altar. Cut that soul tie. Detach from them. Because what's it doing? It's just slowing you down. You've got to press toward the goal for the mark of the high calling of God on your life for the gospel. And the verse right after that is so meaningful. And let those who are mature have this same mind. And if you don't have it, maybe one day you'll get it. But be mature in the Lord and let people go. I love you guys.